One of the most intriguing parts of a society is its religion and spirituality, which are found at the very center of any culture. Human beings need meaning and values for sustainability, and many look to a higher power and to a moral code. Religion and spirituality are clearly very broad terms that result in multiple definitions and certainly interpretations. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to observe many fascinating global cultural practices where people seek understanding and knowledge, as well as a foundation for happiness and a blueprint for living. Around the world, and even around the block, one form of religion and spirituality differs from the next. Some look to religion for hope, direction, or as an explanation for our universe, while others look to science for proof or for reason. Faith has various forms. Many get spiritual guidance from God. Some of us look to our ancestors or to nature. And some of us get our faith even from ourselves. But whichever the path, these practices have everything to do with our culture, which shapes the way we see the world. And despite our different religious traditions, our most valued principles are shared through this diversity. Around the world, people typically practice the religion introduced to them by their parents or where they were born. For example, 90% of the world's Sikhs live here in India. And sometimes, for one reason or another, some people might step away from their religion, and others might seek other forms of faith. In any event, most of us don't have all that much exposure to other practices, and that's what's exciting about experiencing other cultures. It allows us to see and learn about how others live, and how religion and spirituality shape their lives. Why are there so many religions anyway? Perhaps it's because as humans evolved, they created their own cultures, each with their own philosophies and ideologies and explanations. Today you'll find literally thousands of different religions. We may be most familiar with a few dozen organized religions and faith groups, yet each of them is likely to have a number of subgroups and denominations, along with many other secular philosophies. And given all of these thousands of forms of faith, it's interesting that each religion believes it is right, and that it knows the truth, regardless of our religious orientation, geography, or where we were born. Sadly, since the beginning of time, and because of these countless distinctive points of view, religion remains at the center of many conflicts. But given these vast differences, as I travel around the world, I find one key common area in most every religion. It's called the Golden Rule. The scholars call it the law of reciprocity. Various scriptures might say, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." Or, "Love for humanity what you love for yourself." Whichever, it's simply the cornerstone of faith and society because it's regarded as the most basic principle of ethics and our moral code. The religious landscape in the world today is as diverse as our ethnicity. Christianity, including Catholics, Protestants, and Orthodox Christians, represent the largest number of followers in the world, more than 2 billion people. Islam, including Sunni and Shia Muslims, is the second largest religion in the world, with more than 1.5 billion followers, nearly a quarter of the world's population. But regardless of one's faith or spiritual path, each practice is comprised of fascinating rituals, ceremonies, and traditions. For example, these Japanese Christians have come a long way to Israel, where they're being baptized in the holy waters of the Jordan River, where Jesus was baptized. Here in southern India, cows are decorated as part of an annual festival where Hindus give thanks to nature for being kind and for giving a rich harvest. This Buddhist man in Bhutan is turning the prayer wheel to acquire good karma. Pilgrims follow Buddha, who is considered a teacher, not a god. Buddhists believe that birth is not the beginning and death is not the end. They're just transitory events. Hinduism has about 1 billion followers and is the oldest organized religion in the world. Hindus worship many forms of God and believe souls can be reincarnated. One of them is Ganesha, the elephant god, the lord of success and the destroyer of evil. As in any religion, Islam has many holy days. Here, Shiite women have gathered to openly mourn the martyrdom of a revered imam. Imams are considered apostles of God. This is Jerusalem's Western Wall, or Wailing Wall, which was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. Because it's the only authentic relic of the ancient temple, it's considered the holiest place for Jews. This is a prominent Baha'i temple in Haifa, Israel. Baha'is, who believe in one God, also believe that the purpose of life is for each individual to develop the spiritual and moral qualities that lie at the core of his or her nature. Islam is derived from the Arabic word salam, which means peace. Buddhism is regarded philosophically by many for its compassion and kindness, and for its respect for all living things. Here, throughout Southeast Asia, monks who own nothing of their own are lining up to receive their alms. This food is given to them each morning by their neighbors. Here along the Ganges River in northern India, Hindus are getting ready for their evening ceremony called Arti. Hindus will light candles and torches, and some will splash into the sacred Ganges where they believe the holy water cleanses their souls. I've heard some affectionately call the ceremony Hindu Happy Hour. At the age of 13, Jewish children become responsible for their own actions. They may celebrate their rite of passage from childhood into adulthood when they become bar mitzvah for boys or bat mitzvah for girls. Muslim women and men dress modestly out of reverence for God. Buddhist prayer flags are inscribed with symbols, prayers, and mantras. Here in the Himalayas, the wind carries these messages across the countryside, bringing happiness, long life, and prosperity. The dot worn between the eyes, or on the forehead, is a religious symbol and is a sign that one is a Hindu, even with young children. Shintoism is the indigenous spirituality of the Japanese people. It aims to establish a connection between present-day Japan and its ancient past. They also believe in the unification and harmony along with all things on Earth, including mountains, rivers, animals and plants, and of course among people. Here on a river running through the middle of Kathmandu is the most interesting religious ritual. Both the Hindus and Buddhists cremate their dead. At this cremation site, family and friends grieve their loved ones at this very public ceremony. Taoism places an emphasis on the unity of the universe, the material world, and the spiritual world, as well as the unity of the past, present, and future. The core of Confucianism is being humane, focusing on the cultivation of virtue and the maintenance of ethics. And throughout China, religion has been influenced by Taoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism, which oftentimes are entwined. It is said that many Chinese are Confucianists for most of their lives, Taoists in retirement, and Buddhists before death. And new trends are evolving that may surprise you. Atheists, agnostics, and others with no religious affiliation represent a fast-growing group. Some estimate about 1 out of every 6 people. There are countless other faith groups that fill in our diverse global mosaic, and their spiritual traditions, practices, and ceremonies are fascinating, including those of this gypsy in Uzbekistan. Shamanism, like here in Namibia, is a spiritual expression where an individual seeks to interact with the spirit world. The shaman engages with both good and bad spirits, which can have a direct effect on the life in the physical world. This bushman in Africa worked himself into a trance so he could communicate with his ancestors, who will give him strength and advice. While many Native Americans today practice Christianity, traditional spirituality includes animism, the belief that all objects in the universe have spirits or souls, including plants and animals, and the rain, the sun, and the moon. A devotion to nature, dedication to the common good, and respect for elders are common themes of Native American spirituality. However, for years, the U.S. government banned most indigenous ceremonies. The American Indian Religious Freedom Act of 1978 and other legislation have strengthened this religious freedom. For harmony between the living and the dead, this Zulu healer in Africa draws on the beliefs that ancestors in the afterlife guide and protect the living. Aboriginal people are very religious and spiritual, and recognize that the sun is the reason for all life. They believe in a number of different deities, whose form may be that of a particular landscape feature, or in a plant or animal form. Some beliefs, called syncretism, combine Catholicism with native rituals and traditions. On the steps of this church in Guatemala, indigenous people at prayer swing incense and chant to honor their ancestors. Similarly, in Cuba, most of the people here practice Santeria, which combines Catholicism and native African beliefs developed by slaves. Wearing white means purity. They worship Santeria deities, and they honor the dead. Religious architecture reflects some of history's greatest designs. It also signifies sacred places of worship, like this basilica in Quito, Ecuador. Religious buildings are typically the most influential centerpiece in any community, such as the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul. Built for both the Byzantine and Ottoman empires, it was first a church, then a mosque. In Mali, some of the most interesting mosques in the Islamic world greet the faithful each day, including this 13th century World Heritage Site in Genet. And this historic mud brick structure in Timbuktu dates back to the 15th century and was a spiritual center of Islamic study in northern Africa. This ancient stupa is Kathmandu's most important Buddhist shrine. 365 steps lead up to the top, where the stupa's sleepy eyes symbolize the all-seeing eyes of Buddha. Known for its onion-shaped domes, Moscow has some of the most beautiful religious structures in the world, and perhaps the best known of them all is the Cathedral of St. Basil, built by Ivan the Terrible. The Punakha Dzong is regarded as the most beautiful Buddhist monastery in Bhutan. Originally built in 1637, the Dzong has withstood 6 fires, a flood, and an earthquake. The 12th century Angkor Wat in Cambodia is the world's largest single religious monument. Over the years, the historic structure went through many changes. It was first a Hindu temple, and then it became a Buddhist temple. The Khajuraho temples in India are known for their intricate sandstone sculptures. Called the Temple of Love, it's dedicated to several Hindu patriarchs. There's no one definition for religion and spirituality, not by a long shot. That's because they can be historical and mythical, and confusing and complex, if only because interpretations widely differ. So much so that many avoid discussing religion altogether because opinions vary so much. Spirituality can include a more formal, organized religion, but it also includes countless other expressions and belief systems and philosophies, including fascinating traditional healing and spiritual rituals that seek harmony and guidance. But whichever paths we choose to seek guidance, happiness, and truth, religion and spirituality can play a leading role in that journey. And as I travel around the world, I find that religions and other forms of spirituality are based on the same principles. Kindness and compassion, and love and forgiveness are certainly among them. And in our ever-changing, multifaceted world that's riddled with daunting, complex issues, it's more important than ever to find common ground among our various beliefs and focus on our similarities instead of our differences. That can unite people everywhere to bring about a more peaceful world